Hi everybody, Steve from Steve's Makerspace, and today we are in Scrap Mechanics Survival modded. I have the Forestry and Farming mod and the Survival with Balance mod, which are working together, and I want to build an ethanol factory. With the Forestry and Farming mod, you can farm corn. You get seeds from the corn, use a vacuum pump to spit out seeds, use a vacuum pump to suck up ripe corn, and then with the Survival with Balance mod, you can make gasoline out of corn. The Forestry and Farming mod also allows you to plant and harvest trees. So you might want to check out my previous video where I made a fully automatic tree farm. Now why do I want to use this when we have these oil ponds now in Scrap Mechanic? Well, in my survival world where I've got lots of stuff, I searched for hours and only found one pond in my world. And it was way out by the scrap city. And I don't want to move all my stuff out there. So I'm going to see if I can use this mod to build a fully automatic ethanol farm factory. Now I already have this setup over here, which used to be my fruit farm, and this setup comes complete with a bot smasher that picks up the spines and turns the spines into metal. So one thing I'm noticing is I'm going to need to raise these beams up because they're too low. The corn is higher than the fruit. So let me get to work on raising these up. Now I've raised the beams. Let's get the chest and the vacuum pump in place. Let me check this, see if it's the right height. Looks like it needs to be a little bit higher. Now it's the right height. Let's see if I've got it right over the soil. Now it's time for the sensors. Now in my previous videos about making a fully automated spud farm and a fully automated fruit farm, I had the sensors right here and I got it to work, but it's a little touchy. Like you have to be pretty precise, and I got a lot of feedback from people who are having trouble getting it to work properly. So this time I think I'm going to come up with a method that's more foolproof, that's not quite so touchy. So I want to do the sensor on this side instead of coming around on top, and I'm thinking I'll have one sensor checking to see if the dirt is empty, and then I'll place down some blocks next to each soil plot where I want the seeds to fire. And I'll have a second sensor looking at those blocks. Then I'll add some logic, so if the sensor detects a block and there's no plant on that piece of soil, then it'll fire seed. I can change the starting degrees in the controller to get to the next plot. I know that each plot is 24 degrees away from each other. This inner circle of plots has 15 plots, so 24 times 15 is 360 degrees. Now I'll set up the sensor that's going to be on the outside of the soil plot and detect the wood block. So the sensor looking at the dirt is going to go to a NOR gate, and then the NOR to an AND, and the sensor that's looking at the wood block is also going to go to that AND gate. So if the outer sensor detects the wood and the inner sensor does not detect a plant, then the AND gate will light up. I was testing this with corn seeds. I don't have a lot of corn seeds. I probably should have been using some seeds that I have too many of. So it wound up shooting too many seeds. I could have also just had no seeds but set up the water pump and then been testing to see if the water pump got triggered. So it was firing too many seeds. I wasn't sure what to do about it. I set up a second sensor to look at the plot, which was a good thing, but I made an error. I connected those two sensors to an AND gate when those two sensors should have gone maybe to an OR gate instead of an AND gate. But I hadn't figured that out just yet, so I tried doing an extra sensor on the outside, detecting more wood blocks and adding wood blocks. I decided to set that problem aside and set up my second vacuum pump to suck up the ripe corn, and that was working fine. And the system was planting more corn, it just wasn't very reliable. Now to set up the factory part of the farm, I needed to put a craft bot attached to the chest that's collecting the corn. Oh dear, that's not going to work very well. My craft bot needed some support. So on the outside of these beams I set up some legs with some tires on free bearings. And as you can see, that seemed to do the trick. So we can start crafting our gasoline. And if I put another chest on the outside of the craft bot, I can set this to repeat. So it will continue making gasoline as long as there's corn. One thing I didn't think about when I set out to build this is that the CraftBot does not remember the repeat for the gasoline. If it runs out of corn, that isn't there anymore. So unfortunately, I can't just go away for a long time and then come back to a chest full of gasoline. I actually have to make the CraftBot start the process of crafting the gasoline. I suppose I could make a really huge farm and continually be filling up with corn, but I'm not going to do that. Eventually I figured out the proper logic. I've got 2 sensors to detect the plot. Both of those are going to a NOR gate. NOR gate goes to an AND gate, and the other sensor detecting the wood goes to the AND gate. I only need 1 piece of wood on the outside of the plot. The AND gate goes to the vacuum pump shooting the seed, and the AND gate also goes to a timer which is set to 3 seconds, and then the timer goes to the water cannon. Another thing I wondered about with seed misfires is if changes in the terrain height or bumps might be causing the misfires, and if there was a way to mitigate that. I tested the level the sensor needs to be to detect a plant, and I was surprised to find that even a small increase in height made the sensor not detect the seedling, and you have to go fairly far down to detect the soil. So if we put the sensor somewhere between these heights, then that should make for a more reliable detection. Or maybe we could mitigate changes in height by using a tire attached to a long suspension, so that if the terrain rose, then the tire would go up and the sensor with it, with the bearing over here being free. Or it could be that none of this is really doing anything helpful. I don't know. If you want to build something like this, I think this method is going to be more reliable than the previous method I had with the sensors with the fruit farm. It's going to take some trial and error to get it to shoot properly. And remember to start out with completely level ground. I think I've got it working pretty well. I have figured out how I can attach a second vacuum pump for the outside ring, but I'm not going to spend time building the outside ring for this episode. I've proven that it can be done. That's the main thing I wanted to do, is just prove the concept. So I'll wrap it up here. If you like this video, give it a like, consider subscribing to my channel, ring the bell for notifications, and give me comments. I love to read your comments. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Steve's Makerspace.